All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the April meeting of the Athens in Motion Commission. You're in Athens-Clarke County. I will share the agenda. It's a lovely day in Athens, Georgia. Cloudy, but I'd say this is still good biking weather. Good walking weather. So heads up, we might shift some things around. So this is mainly, I just want y'all to be aware, and particularly for the staff updates, because we want, Randy's running a little bit late and we would like for him to be present when we talk about the communications visual materials survey. So if Randy isn't here when we get to this section, we'll go ahead and move into staff updates. So Todd and Daniel, we might get to y'all earlier than 4:50, and we'll go through those and then come back to the communications survey before we get into general discussion. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. Any other additions to the agenda? Changes? Look good? At the bottom, standard updates. All right. I will entertain a motion to approve our agenda for today, April 26th.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll
Thank
second.
you, Aaron. And second from Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right. We have our agenda. Oh, Daniel, I forgot to ask if there's any public comment. Sorry.
No public comment.
Okay. Moving on to our March minutes provided by Blaine. Thank you, Blaine. So here are the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to these minutes? If there are none, I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Teresa. Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. So we have some housekeeping items. I wanted to bring forth, sorry, this thing in the way. Okay. Our next meeting is on Election Day. And so I wanted to put forth the option or the idea of moving it if that works with people's schedule. I thought about just going through with it, but I kind of generally feel like Election Day should be a holiday. So
I'm fine either way.
yeah, let's see. So some options, and I have not run this by Daniel. Daniel, we probably should have talked about this beforehand. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's a month in advance, so we're good.
Yeah. So some options would be to hold the meeting the Tuesday before. So that would be May 17th.
That is the Greenway monthly meeting.
I knew you were going to say that. I'm like, I bet that's the Greenway meeting.
Mhm.
I think I still have access to their calendar. I do.
The month after, or the week after, is free. The last week in May,
Yeah, that's
the 31st.
I'm out of town.
So we would either need to go Monday or Wednesday. Wednesday is the Prince Avenue user group meeting.
Mhm.
Monday, I have a meeting with GDOT Safety Office. We could do Prince Avenue at 4:30 if that's available for everyone.
I'm busy on Wednesday afternoon, sorry to say. But
So I guess,
y'all can go without me. I mean, I don't
Mm.
believe I've
well,
got any pressing issues at this point.
is anybody? Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, does anybody plan on voting early?
I do.
Vote early.
Yes.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's an option to just continue to have it, but vote early.
Yeah, if I either go earlier in the day or
Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
well, how,
that's gonna be my question.
yeah, I just want to be mindful, not everyone votes early, and there's some important items on that ballot
Yeah.
related to transportation. Gosh,
You
yeah.
mean everyone in terms of like the viewers?
I mean, you know,
Only a 2-hour meeting. I mean, it's not like it's all day long, you know.
I know. Okay, maybe I'm getting in my principles a little bit, and maybe I don't need to put that on y'all. All
I
right, how
don't
about,
get the day off. I just want to point that out.
yeah.
No,
All right.
don't disagree with you, but
Mhm. Well, let's keep our meeting for now and see if anyone has concerns about that who's not here. Because if we're gonna vote early, and if you all, you know, Daniel and Todd and Ronnie feel okay about having a meeting on election day, then I'm okay with it. Just don't want y'all to feel like you might miss your opportunity to cast a ballot.
Well, how
Seems
about
good.
this? How about we keep it on the 24th, but if there's anything that requires, you know, major discussion and vote, that we'll push that to another meeting.
Do we think we have anything coming up in May that might be big vote, big discussion? We usually do have some
I can't
stuff.
think of what that would be, but you know, Daniel, we defer to
Where are
you.
we at on? I mean, we'll get into this in the update, but like complete streets is at some point, and
Mhm.
I don't know of any grants that would require any decisions before then. I think, yeah, it's hard to say. Let's just let's leave it there. I have a
Okay.
placeholder there right now, and I'll just maybe let's send out an email asking if anyone wants to change the meeting time. I know I'm fine with it. Todd, Ronnie, are you guys okay with meeting on election day?
Yeah, I usually vote in the early pre,
Yeah.
so early voting.
I will be on vacation that day, so I'll be voting early as well.
All right,
Craig,
and
are
then
you just
Stephen might be
checking?
there, but
So Craig, we were just noting that our next meeting falls on election day, and if we would move it, I think we're gonna keep it. Do you have any concerns about? Okay. All right, well, we will keep it for now. All right. Works for me. I'm glad we could have a conversation about that. Thank you. The next item under housekeeping is commissioner expiration dates or term expiration dates. I don't think you guys will just expire. Please don't expire. Please be careful.
identify with that. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, and the renewal process. So I believe, let me go to our, what's the Athens in motion?
I'm expiring in July.
Me too, I think.
Yeah, so we have, yes, Teresa, Randy, who's filling out a term, and Aaron, your terms expire July 31st. And our charter or bylaws state that you have the option to renew. And I'm not sure what that process looks like. If it's just you indicate interest and it's done, or if there's a checkbox. And I put this question, I gave Daniel a heads up about this like less than 24 hours ago. So
didn't see the email, so yeah.
Yeah, there might be, I mean, it might
Wow.
involve a mayor, because it's a mayor appointed commission, there may be a step in there where they have to sign off on your
Yeah.
recommendation. I'm not sure.
yeah, I was
I'll
wondering
send
that
an
too.
email to Jean and find out. Or Ronnie, would that be Jean or Cynthia?
Check with Cynthia.
Okay.
Okay, so we will figure that out. And if you have enjoyed serving and you still have capacity to do so, I'd love for each of you to continue to serve on the Athens Emotion Commission for what it's worth, but I don't think I get a vote.
I'm in.
But
Just don't have me.
all right. I'll also understand if you need more time to be out on the water or riding bikes or horses.
I want to continue as long as everyone will have me.
Right? Continuity. So we'll move into our major agenda items. Couple quick updates, and then if Randy isn't here, we'll go into staff updates and come back to communication survey. A few weeks ago, or was it last week or the week before, I presented our complete streets policy update to the mayor and commission. So they got to see that. And again, that came out of the policy committee. We approved the updates a year ago, I think it was. And then it had been a while since we looked at it, and Aaron went through and did a great job of pulling out the highlights of it. And then I tried to put some visuals with it and experiment with some of our new visuals, our new logos and colors and whatnot. So next steps are to end up on an agenda and then come for a vote in June. And at this point, our role as a commission is, I don't mean to say done, but we kind of take a back seat, and Daniel and Ronnie and Steven take it from here. Is that right, Daniel?
I believe so. Because from here, we build the agenda report, and then we will go into the agenda session. I don't believe we had any, I think they were totally fine with the work session, and there were no major follow-up questions. So we'll go into the agenda setting session, and then that's where they'll decide if it will go on the consent agenda or if they want more discussion, and then the voting session after that. So Ronnie, you and I can get with Julia and get that agenda item, or mostly me and Julia, and you can kind of just get looped in on it.
So yeah, there is no June, July agenda cycle meeting. It's been canceled. So it will be a July, August.
Okay.
Unless you're ready to submit an agenda by tomorrow noon.
How late you got tonight? So that one is for, the one tomorrow is for what, next month?
Yes,
So
for
May,
voting
June?
in June, yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess it's technically possible to get it done by tomorrow.
We can discuss offline and look at the priorities and how much work it need, because you have the option of putting a title only. But within a week, you need to have an agenda written.
Yeah, I think that would be the ideal, because we were really trying to get ahead of the budget discussions just to go ahead and get this policy pushed through, and it was widely appreciated by everyone. So let's have a meeting tomorrow morning or something. We'll discuss it. I'll send you an email.
All right. Thank y'all. Appreciate you. Let me know if you need anything. Excited to get our new complete streets policy out on the street. Next item on the agenda, I just wanted to give Teresa and Randy, or I guess Teresa, the opportunity to report back on the Green Life Expo. That was last Friday, and Teresa was there doing double duty, also educating, informing folks about the upcoming T-SPOST, which has many bike ped projects on it, an opportunity to improve mobility and safety along our major corridors. So Teresa, you want to give a report back?
Well, there's not a whole lot to say. It was a very beautiful day, sunny, quite warm. The crowd was not as big as we had the last time. The last time we had it was in the Botanical Gardens in that big atrium area. But of course, people are still sort of getting used to meeting in person again. But it was a nice event, and I got a lot of people interested in the connection between T-Splost and Athens in Motion, which was good because there were people who knew about one or the other, but not both. And then Randy and his wife Lynn were there, and so they took on the bulk of the Athens in Motion spiel, and so we made a good team, and it was a successful event. Yeah, there I am in my T-Splost hat. Yeah, it was good. So I think we got some yes votes, and that we don't have that new logo yet, so we're still using the old one, but it works. We have that banner, and yeah, so we had a good time, and yeah, that's about it.
You can get y'all a tent.
We need a
Yeah.
tent.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and put together a list of items we need for tabling. I think it's really great right after a fresh tabling event. And we can go ahead and get those things ordered.
Right, and if people don't like my toy box and want to come up with something else, that's totally fine with me. But
Teresa, I love it.
That's
I
great.
just love this setup.
the children who attend these things love it, and so yeah, we had Scott's Bike Athens materials there too, so we were able to hawk those to some customers. So it was all good. Was happy.
Right, because yeah, Mike Athens has materials and we don't have printouts. Sorry.
Oh yeah, and we also talked about Vision Zero, which is we hope going to be something the mayor and commission take some action on very soon.
I believe it has the mayor's budget been released? Do we know that? Okay, never mind that. I was in a bike team task force meeting with GDOT earlier today, the state bike ped engineer, and we were talking about lights on bicycles, and rather than kind of trying to get police to like enforce that law, it would be a great idea to get some materials that could be distributed. If a police officers see somebody riding at night or without a light, they could, rather than pulling them over and saying, hey, you need to get a light, they can say, hey, I noticed you don't have a light. Here's one provided by Athens in Motion. I think it could be a really cool thing to buy. And there's a website that I forwarded to the group, but it's kind of like a whole bunch of different types of swag. I would like to get like a really nice one. I know the ones that Bike Walk Savannah uses, they use watch batteries, which can be helpful, for people who don't necessarily. They mentioned that they specifically do that and not the rechargeable ones because there's a lot of people who ride bikes in Savannah that don't have access to like a charging device or something. So I don't know if that means we also give out a power bank with it, or if I think most anyone would have charging capabilities. So
A couple things. Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Bike Athens did this a few years ago too, partnering with ACCPD, and I'm not sure what grant funding or whatever, or Governor's Office Highway Safety, but to do the same thing.
So we did. There was a law firm that sort of sponsored a light giveaway a couple years in a row. Usually, like on Bike to Work Day, we would sort of have an event and give away lights away for free. I think they gave us some money for lights. The the big issue that we've had over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years is we used to get money from GOHS to buy lights, to give out to people, all our donated bikes, anybody who wants a set of lights. We had some really nice ones. And then they came down with this rule saying that bike lights are considered promotional items and cannot be paid for with the grant. So we asked for people to donate to a program like that. Kryptonite gave us a whole bunch of little blinky lights that we give away. We're getting to the bottom of that stock now, and we're going to have to start thinking about like either raising money or just paying out of our pocket to get a bunch of lights. I'm open to suggestions on how we can fund it, but distributing them, that's the easy part. Whether it's us or the PD, we can figure that out.
Yeah, and I think we could have it at tabling events and stuff like that. Yeah.
Hey, Daniel and Scott and other people who are knowledgeable about bikes. I seem to recall when I was a kid, there were bike lights that could be charged up by pedaling your bicycle. Somehow it was connected to the movement of the wheel. Am I just making that up, or is that a thing?
It definitely used to be a thing. They didn't work very well back in the 80s or whatever, where you'd put the generator on your tire and it would spin around and generate a little bit of lights. Nowadays the technology is really good. The LED stuff and the internal hubs, it's expensive.
Okay.
What about also I've used, because for ease of use, they're probably not, I mean, they lasted me a few years. They're probably not the most compact, but ones that use AAA batteries, they're replaceable. Most people have access to those.
Those were the nice lights that we gave away. Those were all AA and AAA stuff. I would just keep cheap batteries here at the shop when people came in with dead lights. But we've been giving away a lot of the blinky ones that take the watch batteries, and I buy them off of eBay and sell them for $1 a piece, or just give them out for free.
Well, I think it's a great idea. We definitely need to be doing more of it. And getting the police looped in is awesome.
Does anyone, I mean, not to like speak on behalf of everyone, but you guys have money to use up by end of the fiscal year, and Scott needs money for lights.
All right. Well, do we have a preferred light
Think
that we could buy in bulk?
Could you put something together, Scott, with the lights and how much you would need, or do you know, like?
I could look at what the sort of the wholesale costs of decent lights that we get from our wholesalers. The question is really what it comes down to is, do you want to give somebody something that blinks and is cheap and keeps them legal, or do you want to give them a really effective light? And those are very two different price points. I tell people when they ask me about lights, what I can give them for free and what they should be looking for when they go buy lights. And I tell them that, it's going to cost this much money to get something decent. It's worth it. You need to spend it if you can afford it. I can put together some tiered.
Yeah, figure out some options, because I think maybe we need to do both. I mean, maybe you should just have on hand some El Cheapo freebies.
What's the price point for the more expensive one, Scott?
I mean, I would feel good about between $20 and $30 for one light, either front or rear.
That's what I have. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we might be able to catch a break on wholesale. I can look into it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to give people some effective lights. They just tend to get stolen. That's pretty much the thing that I always lose off my bike, or my headlights.
Same here. That's why I started buying cheap ones. I wanted to be seen more than be to see, but you buy expensive lights, and that's the only thing that would. I've had issues with theft over the years with my bike. The lights.
Are they the kind of thing that you could just snap on and snap off? Like with your house?
I mean,
Just forget, going somewhere, you don't want to put it in your pocket, I don't have a bag
Right.
on me. So yeah.
Another thing to carry around slows you down. It's like, okay, I got to partially disassemble my bike.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so Scott's going to look into it, get us some tiered options. And yeah, a little bit of lighting can go a long way. And yeah, do we want to focus on a particular kind of light? I'm just going to put this out there because in the state of Georgia, you are required to have a front light and rear reflectors. So do we want to focus on front lights? Definitely helps to have a rear light, I'm just saying.
Like the rear light is the more important one, isn't it?
I honestly
There's
feel like
not
that too, but
They should
It's-
require if they're gonna require something, a flashy backlight and rear light.
Yeah,
The
in the
front,
state of Georgia, it's you need a front light. But I mean, most bike accidents don't happen from behind, even though that's where people are scared
Yeah.
about
it's
getting
true.
hit, right?
at night.
Yeah, that's true.
So does the headlight allow you to see things like potholes that might send you topsy-turvy?
It depends on the light. This kind of goes along with that conversation of what keeps you legal, so what helps you be seen, and then what helps you see. And you kind of want a combination of both. And the best lights. Well, look, Scott's got some stuff up for us. Yes.
So these guys are keeping you legal. These aren't very bright, but they're cheap. We still have quite a few of these to give away. We haven't even gotten down to them yet because we're still giving away all the kryptonite lights. This is what we used to give people. This is a AA. This is AAA, and these are bright. These are good. These are retail for like $30 for the set, though.
But yeah, it would get stolen, and that's a big loss.
Yeah, I'll say this much, like it's only happened over the 10 plus years of riding. It has only happened to me, I don't know, 3 times I got stuff stolen. So it's not like it's just prolific. I don't know, Lauren, if you've had more issues, but it does happen, but it wasn't like all the time. So fortunately that's the case with other people. I don't know.
We could
Yeah,
do the
it's-
logo. We could say you could get this for free from Athens in Motion instead of stealing it as the
Right.
logo.
Yeah, I figure, I guess the people who take the lights, they probably need it more than I do. Even though I hate
I doubt
having
that.
to spend
I
another
doubt that very
$100.
much, Lauren. Nobody needs it
Yeah.
more than you do.
If we flood the market with free lights, then they'll be less likely to get stolen, right?
Yeah, flood the market. Okay, good discussion. We have somewhere to go with this. I like those lights that you'll have, Scott. Those are good lights. Next item on our agenda. So Randy isn't here yet, so we're going to go ahead and move on to staff updates, and we'll come back to communications. So Todd, I will turn it over to you. I know there's some big stuff happening along our trails, and especially with the Trail Creek trestle. Take it away.
Yeah, so they're continuing to erect the steel on the Firefly trestle, and it's still on schedule. They had some bolt pattern issues, and so they've resolved those, and so it's still moving ahead with working on the park side, and then moving in May to the Poplar Street side. So everything's going as planned. And then I'm going to quickly share a picture, if you don't mind, of the cemetery trail.
Hmm.
They've started removing the bridge deck. I assume y'all can see that?
Yeah.
And so to start putting the trail beneath it, and you can kind of see some of the pictures of the trail where it will come up to the bridge, and then just the shoring and the piles that they're working on driving in that space right now. So that's kind of where they are on the on that. They're focusing the majority of their work on the bridge because the bridge has to be completed in a prescribed amount of time once they took it up. And so that's where they're focusing all their efforts to do that, because otherwise they, will have to pay a penalty for not having the cemetery's bridge open. So, and then at the same time, the cemetery is working on their portion of the bridge. It had some repaving it. It had some holes and stuff, so they're working on fixing that as well. So,
Do you have a completion date for those projects? Are we looking at fall for that?
fall for cemetery, and it'll definitely be pushing winter for the bridge, for the
Okay.
Firefly Trestle Bridge, if not, early 2023. But I think fall, they're shooting for that 2022, the end of 2022 on
Okay,
it.
thanks.
So, but that's the main thing. Everything else is kind of status quo on the Firefly 3. They're still doing easements, and then Cars Creek Greenway Extension. We went out and kind of flagged the property boundary between what's Greenway and what's conservation easement the other week, but that's just minor stuff. They're still working on the design for the trail. So anyway, and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thanks. A couple of questions. So I saw Poplar Street is going to be closed for, what is it, starting May 9th? Is it the whole street? Is it past the parking lot behind Mama's Boy?
It'll just be intermittently closed as they're erecting the arches. So it won't be closed full time. No.
Okay. I'm just planning my alternate route.
Yeah, and the switchback ramp, of course, will be closed during those settings of the bridge pieces. So the erection.
Do you
With
know?
that, could you like keep it open so that you can partially use the switchback down to the staircase?
Yeah, we can talk to them about that. And I don't know what they're I don't know. I mean, just where they're setting that crane. They're setting the crane. The swing shouldn't impact like the area you're talking about. So I'll talk to them to see. But it may, because like if you're walking on the switchback, you do get really close to where they're swinging that crane. So they may have to shut the entire switchback down.
Right. That'll be good to know. And I understand because, being on the switchback, you really are right up on the construction. And it's been impressive that they've been able to keep it open as long as they have with minimal interruptions. And I appreciate that, but I get it. I just want to be able to plan my route.
Okay.
Yeah, it's main corridor for me. Great. All right. Thank you, Todd. And Daniel, do you want to take it over? Tell us about Ray's grant, which was your life this past week.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if we're not going to have any committee updates because I completely didn't schedule any committee meetings last month and didn't realize until we had this one coming up. So Ray's grant was submitted. We got 27 letters of support. We got our benefit cost ratio up to 2.23 with some head scratching between me and Stephen. Just trying to get, make sure that we're using the best data that we can to really get the numbers that reflect that corridor. And then just a lot of supplemental stuff. They told us last year that it was just the benefit cost ratio and that we didn't really need to do any edits to the narrative. There was a couple new criteria that they added this year, which were also met with our project. So we wanted to go ahead and spend the time to do the edits to the narrative, but yeah, the main thing that we wanted to focus on was that benefit cost ratio. So we double, triple, quadruple checked it, and I really hope they don't find another. Apparently, there had been a typo in the previous year where they said that they typed in 0.3 instead of 0.03 for percentage of commercial traffic. So the ratio was saying that we had 30% commercial traffic when in reality it was supposed to be 3. So that ended up kind of cascading into some edits that reduced our benefit cost ratio. Anyways, that's all done now. We'll find out in July. I'm really optimistic, but got a piece of wood right here in front of me just in case I need to knock on it. I would like to go ahead and start brainstorming our next year because I think we could do a lot to continue to apply for this grant. There are planning grant opportunities too that we didn't really use. So I was kind of thinking that we could potentially do 3 different planning grants and go ahead and start building the scope with a group or committee, developing partnerships for that. I wasn't around when the North Avenue grant was originally written, and so I want to make sure I have a full year to dedicate to getting all the stuff we need. They release the information pretty late. I'm hoping that this year it'll be better because with them letting us know in July, then that means that we'll be able to have debriefs and all of the extra and hopefully a new round of information. But I don't know what the chances are of getting a raise grant for construction 2 years in a row. So I don't know if we want to jump directly into a capital project like that request for 25 million, or if we want to stick to the $1 to $5 million range for planning grants. I have a few ideas in mind, but maybe we can set up a grants meeting, Mark, and we can talk about some possibilities. In the NOFO world of grants, I did get another NOFO. Let me find it. We've got a few. There's one upcoming which is more relevant to our conversation, so I'll go and start with that. There is the Safe Streets and Roads for All, SS4A. That's the number 4. It's new discretionary grant program under the infrastructure bill, I believe, that supports. Is the infrastructure BIL all caps? Is that do you know what that is? Feel like it's the infrastructure bill, but could be wrong. So it supports local initiatives to prevent transportation-related death and serious injury on the roadways. So there's webinars coming up. I've already registered for May 2nd. I forwarded that along to our grants committee. Jake Moss is going to be there. Ronnie, I believe you signed up. So basically we're going to find out, it's kind of a pre-application info. So we're going to find out what the min and max are, what it can be used for. I know the general idea is it could be used for plan implementation. So it could be anything from building a Vision Zero plan all the way to implementing aspects of a Vision Zero plan. Obviously, we need to build ours before we can implement it. We do have road safety audits with several safety related projects that we could potentially apply for. So it really comes down to what those amounts are going to be. So once we get that info on May 2nd, then we'll be able to kind of hit the ground running and decide which direction we want to go. We do know that no matter what, we're going to be developing a Vision Zero plan. So it's kind of like, do we get a grant to do a whole thing and hire a consultant again, or do we do it with staff and only contract out some aspects of it? So we'll know better as once we get this info. And the other NOFO that I was going to mention which is notice of funding opportunity. Where did I put that? Okay, I believe so. It is downtown. It's for downtown revitalization. So it's the downtown revitalization grant. It pulling it up right now. I think it's $1 to $5 million for shovel-ready projects that need to be completed by, I believe it's 2024. Yeah, so a minimum of 1 million, up to 5 million. There's a 10% match requirement. Applications are due June 3rd. And yeah, it has to be done by June 2024. It can't be for planning documents. It needs to be ready to go, design stuff. So, and then I was looking at it has to be for rural communities. So it's, I was looking at the NOFO and they don't actually define what rural is. They ask you to justify. So using raises numbers of the 200,000 or less is rural, we qualify as rural. I think basically we just have to justify that we are a rural community. I know there's some places that are so rural that it makes us look metropolitan, but I do believe that we would count for this. And we were brainstorming some different ideas, and the only things I could really think of, it's weird how perfect this matches up. It doesn't really have to do with like transportation, but College Avenue, the College Square project, their amount of money that they got for SPLOST 2023 is 10% of what that project originally asked for, which is what the match is on this. And I believe we already own the right of way. Like that is something that we could probably consider shovel ready. So we'll find out if the funding will be there or not. I guess once the referendum passes or not, and then a week or two later, this application's due. So that's one option. I've already sent it along to Central Services and Eva Kennedy with NEGRC. She originally sent this to me. The only other thing would be if there was something related to like Clayton that didn't get completely finished out and we needed some extra money for it. But I think that one's fully funded and I don't think they're cutting costs. But something to think about. Does anybody have any ideas on what this could go toward? It has to be within a downtown district and it has to be ready to go.
Yeah, question is, do we know if what they had proposed for College Avenue Square is a plan? Because I think it was more concept, but I'm not sure. I can't remember. Teresa, do you remember?
I don't recall.
Okay. I mean, that's a quick answer though. Just talk to Linda or David.
I mean, I think the plan would be converted into a plaza and it could be as simple as that, uh, I don't know that I don't think they're going to be requiring like construction level documents. This is for rural Georgia. So I think what they mostly are meaning is like, we don't want y'all to go and use this to plan, to do your plan or to plan a fix and not actually do anything. Like it could be street trees, right? Like it could be replacing all the street trees. It could, I was almost wondering if it could actually include like the protected bike lanes along East Broad down to Firefly Trailhead. Like those are types of infrastructure fixes that we could do to like improve safety, but it's not really revitalization. So I don't think something like that would fly. They have 17 million to put forth, so they're predicting anywhere from like 5 to 15 projects, and this is, I believe, in the state of Georgia. So the DCA, Georgia Department of Community Affairs, is doing the NOFO for this. So
Okay, so our chances are pretty high and it doesn't hurt to apply.
yeah. So I did see that that Randy got on. Do we want to kind of carry over there? That's all my grant stuff. I have more other things, but
We can continue with your updates and, just have time for discussion.
okay. Yeah, just keep me on my timeline. I went to the GOC meeting yesterday. Didn't realize they have those little rotating cameras on the table. That was really interesting. I was there to discuss the parklet ordinance that we've been developing in coordination with Central Services, and I was just there to talk about some of the edits that we put in there. The majority of those edits were related to like technical standards, so adding in some information for the ADA accommodation section and adding in obviously the bike lane consideration. There was some interesting discussion. I don't know where it'll fall out, but one of the questions that Commissioner Parker just started off with was, hey, there's a lot of concern that y'all have raised about, conflict points and safety. And, I was looking, and I'm pretty sure there's only one place that's eligible that has bike lanes, and it's the National. And if we just say that you can't do it if there's bike lanes, then, would anyone have any problems with that? So that's going to be a question for the mayor and commission, but that was something that she brought up, was kind of going back to staff's earlier recommendation that you don't have parklets where you have bike lanes. Basically, it's kind of like, if you do have bike lanes, you need to meet all of these criteria. And I think they're worried that it's just overly complicating the ordinance. There's already a ton of really complicated parts of that ordinance that we didn't even really get to. But yeah, they were really receptive to all of our recommendations. They did ask for a bike count of those lanes to see the usage, which I've been really wanting to see that anyway. So I'm glad that it was requested. So Tim Griffith was with me, and he's gonna get that information.
Mark has his hand up.
For us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark?
Yeah, so another problem with that parklet, which I otherwise really like the idea of these parklets, was I was riding down the National, right by the National, and just after I passed it, a car turned in and almost hit me because they didn't see me. And I kind of don't blame the car, because they didn't see me because I was obscured by the parklet. So I just
Right.
emerged out of nowhere in this car. It was very close. And I wasn't going that fast either. I slowed down when I'm going through there. So that is another issue, just the sight line of cars turning in. I think they were turning into the chamber building there.
Okay.
And furthermore, like, parklets are awesome because they slow down traffic, right? They basically create a road diet. And not only are they great for pedestrian or just people to use, patrons of restaurants, but they slow down traffic. They are aesthetically pleasing downtown, and to not allow parklets because of bike lanes that really not a whole lot of people wanted downtown anyway. I know I've harped on this for a while, but it just seems like we're really cutting off our nose by our face with this. I think parklets make things safer for cyclists downtown because they slow cars down, and they immediately advertise that this is an area for pedestrians and people, not just cars.
Yeah, our main concerns are that there are ADA requirements that are the attorney's office has said, in order to have parklets, these need to be ADA accessible. Sorry, your camera's like moving all over the place.
It's one of those owl. They gave me one of these owl 3D or 360, like you mentioned. It's the only camera I got, and I can't do much about it. It's weird, I know. Sorry.
No worries. Sorry, I was getting distracted, so I'll look at the other screen. But yeah, so the safety concerns are it's right now, and I think with our recommendations, it would be fine. Like right now, the parklets are just totally open to the bike lane. So what we would be doing is putting in a barrier there, limit pedestrians to one singular location, and then that singular location would have signage for the pedestrians saying yield to bikes, and then the bikes, it would say watch for pedestrians. We gave them a price for what those signs would cost. From there, if there is ADA requirement and there is no nearby curb cuts, which I will point out that at the National, there's already a curb cut nearby that they could actually utilize. So they wouldn't actually need the $6,000 ramp that we would have to buy, but there's basically a speed table for bikes that they use for bus landing areas. It's made by Zikla, and I got a price and a sample from them, and it would be about $6,000 to $7,000 pre-shipping, and the shipping is really determined based on how much we order because they have to send a shipping container from Spain to us. So, if we can fill up a shipping container, then they could wrap it in there. If we're just asking for one, then it's going to cost a good chunk. But with that ramp would allow for the bikes to kind of approach and go up and over at a good angle, and then it would also allow for ADA kind of access from the parklet into the sidewalk. Now, in this picture, I also want to point out there's a cart on end blocking partially the bike lane over to the left there. If you look over to the right, the construction team is kind of working in the bike lane. They're standing in it. So these are all things that I wrote into that ordinance as well, saying during construction, the bike lanes must stay open or, have a proper detour. You have to retain the buffered element. You have to retain the protected element. And so those were just trying to keep the bike lanes where they were as they were intended, but then also ensuring that just everyone will be safer. So once again, our original recommendation was that, you can't, it gets complicated, but and that you shouldn't have the parklet where bike lanes are. But then after exploring it, this is the option, like the recommendation that I just kind of laid out. That's what staff recommended, and so at this point, it's kind of in their hands, Mayor and Commission, and I'll keep you guys updated on it. But it would be good to keep an eye out for once that has moved into the agenda cycle. If you do want to send a comprehensive letter saying one thing or another, I'm sure they would appreciate the input.
Okay, can we have some clarity, Daniel? This is
Yeah.
good feedback, but so what is the recommendation? Is it to not have parklets where there's bike lanes, or is to have parklets where there's bike lanes with the ramp, or in the case of Sine make use of, or the National and Sine make use of their driveway there as ADA access?
So yeah, sorry if that was confusing. Our original recommendation was to not do parklets where there are bike lanes because it was going to be a lot of figuring out, and they were talking about moving thermo around and rerouting the bike lane, and it was going to be really complicated. Our recommendation now is to keep the bike lane where it is, limit the crossing zone to one area of, I think it's like 5 feet wide. And so in this case, if they did their crossing zone from the parklet to that curb, they would already have their curb cut. And then I think it's further. Oh yeah, that's it. And so, and then basically there's a barrier. They have to construct a barrier between the bike lane and the parklet. They can use the buffer area for that protected barrier because in a lot of spaces where we have buffered bike lanes with protection, those protection, the vertical separators, those are in that buffered area. So we did allow that, but yeah, so as it stands, like we want to maintain ADA access across there. and the crossing would be limited to just that point though. And there would be signs that are mandatory for both pedestrians and cyclists.
And there, per my earlier comment, will there be any kind of indication for people turning into the chamber parking lot that they're crossing a bike lane? I mean, because that ain't doing it.
I mean, that's a great point. Yeah, especially if they make it. I mean, there are a limit of heights that they can actually build a barrier. So they can't go over, I think, well, there's a minimum. I'll have to review that. I believe there's
Or
they
even
can't,
just thermoplastic or something, just so people have some
yeah.
indication.
We could potentially have a sign on the corner. They have to put in barricades, like barriers that can withstand 250 pounds of force. That's pushing force in any direction. And they can't be mounted to the asphalt. So what that means is that those barriers, like that could be a planter that is hefty and but it's just a continuous barrier. So with that being on the edge, it should be low enough to where you could still see a cyclist. And with that, the speed table, oh, well, we're not doing speed table, but yeah, we could explore some signage as well in this particular location.
I mean, I don't want to
Now is,
generalize from one incident, but I don't know if others have had that experience.
Yeah.
is this just for this parklet, or are we talking about other potential ones, like the ones on Washington Street in front of Clockton that were there? I'm not sure if they're there anymore.
So the ordinance is for all the parklets. The majority of the ordinance are in those diagonal spaces and not necessarily, but they could rent the parallel spaces, but it's a certain kind of, I believe it's a restaurant. I don't think bars can do it. I think it's restaurants only, so they have to serve food. But there's some restrictions. It can't be along a GDOT controlled roadway. It can't be along a road that is more than 25 miles an hour. And so it's really limited to these internal streets. And the thing that you're seeing here, like that barrier would need to be reinforced with a heavier thing. And they couldn't do the tents that they are doing now. Like right now, that blocks a lot of sight lines, the whole tent situation. So yeah. And then there's some weird stuff with alcohol, where that they weren't able to get into it as much, but there's basically the customer is going to have to carry their own alcohol and they have to follow like a series of signs and they can't step out of a certain zone because it's like it's kind of crazy because basically we have state law that says that you can't serve alcohol outside of your premises, like leased and owned space, and this is considered a public space. And so the server can't bring it out. But then we also have the local ordinance for open carry. And so if you're carrying your beer from the restaurant to the parklet, if if you stop and you're like chatting with someone that you just saw, then that could potentially, a police officer walks up, they might be like, hey, where are you going with that beer? So just trying to get all those weird things figured out. And yeah, that's our parklet discussion.
Yeah, thanks for being on top of that and coming to a compromise. While I'm concerned about parklets, how they might come into bike lanes. I'm with Aaron that I see them as traffic calming and that they make downtown desirable, and bike lanes, people biking and walking in places that are nice to go work hand in hand together. So, and I don't want any business to get the idea that bike lanes are going to harm them in any way, even though we know it's not true. Bike lanes bring business. So thank you for working on that. And it's complicated in ways that regular people don't really think about, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and Daniel, as far as time goes, can you try to be done at 10 after so we can?
Yeah, let's move on to the public input, because honestly, like that's some of the stuff I've been working on too. Not public input, but well, okay, let me give a quick update. Public input for the West Broad roundabout. Ronnie, that is fully open now, right?
Yes, so we began public input, I believe, third week of April, and it would go, or second week of April, and it is going through May 11th. It is hosted on GDOT portal because there is future federal funding on the construction portion of this project. We're following the locally administered projects process. That means heavy involvement with GDOT, along with heavy involvement with the elected or the locals, Athens-Clarke County. So yeah, this is public engagement, and survey is open online for the public to give us their feedback. The other element of this public engagement is we opened our schedule for impacted property owners and major stakeholders in the area to meet with us. I've contacted those individuals and entities, groups, and gave them the opportunity to schedule a meeting with the design team, ACC team, and GDOT. So far, we have one meeting scheduled. Again, while all our meetings are open to the public, this meeting is for the stakeholders, so invitations have been sent to those specific individuals. Blaine and the manager, Blaine Williams, and other county officials have been made aware of those stakeholders' meetings as they are scheduled.
Ronnie, do you have a link for that GDOT portal?
I was just typing that in the chat.
Oh,
I'm
thanks.
going.
Yes,
I'm
I
gonna.
can.
I'm
I
gonna
can
send-
provide it.
Yeah.
I got it. I have it pulled. Oh,
Look at
wow,
that,
it's
everybody.
long.
Teamwork.
Makes the dream work.
Right.
And I believe I'm just to double check, Ronnie. Did the multi-use path around the roundabout get it into the concept that they're?
It partially made it. It's only shown in two corners, and when I checked with the design team, they're hoping that the public input would focus on that and let us know should we invest in putting a multi-use path in all four corners because it is expensive. The design team, given the time frame we have between the time we got that feedback from Daniel and Athens in Motion and the time they were presenting this information to the Georgia Department of Transportation, there was not enough time to do value engineering to put a 10-foot multi-use path on around the entire intersection. But they did advise it is expensive. Now, we are hoping to see public input that would, sway us either or, with or without a multi-use path around the roundabout. So that is, like I said, pending on public input.
Yeah. So definitely need some comments on that. And just to kind of give y'all some info, the reason I was proposing the multi-use path around the entirety is that we do have a lot of kind of joint things coming up together to bring bike lanes to West Broad, even though there are not currently bike facilities or even pedestrian facilities along all of it. It's much easier to install this kind of thing when you're redoing the intersection than it is to try to add in a connection after, with the other funds. So either way, we have a ton of usage. People are on bikes. They ride on the sidewalks, and there's already plenty of people who ride bikes on that road, even though there aren't bike facilities. And I just wanted to ensure that we were accounting for that, especially in a roundabout where it can be really difficult for cyclists to stay visible when there's, especially a 2-lane roundabout, you know. That's a high pressure situation for any cyclist to be in. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. And yes, I agree. And I have tried to bike through this intersection. And it's hard enough as is, and this will be just a visionary, wonderful project. We are putting local dollars into it, and I would, above all, like to make it complete and have facilities for people who are walking and rolling. So, commissioners, please take a look at the survey and respond when you get a chance. That's the deadline has been extended to May 11th. Is that what you said, Ronnie?
Yes.
Okay.
And I did provide our local project webpage, and at the bottom of that page, the last line in there, public input, there is a link you can click on, GDOT page, and it takes you back to that link that Daniel provided.
Yeah, and for those watching at home, if you just search, well, Lauren, what's the best way for people at home to find it? Is there, because I saw you posted a Facebook link.
Yeah, sorry that Facebook puts all their algorithm stuff in there. We did post it. Teresa, I think you posted it on our Facebook group at one point, and I shared it on T-Splost, and it got a lot of engagement actually.
Good.
Because I took a picture of the design, and it's just so colorful.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's what I took a picture of.
here's the design. I think if you just search West Broad roundabout public input GDOT in Google, that'll bring you here. But the web address is also right here, sr-10-roundabout-0016920 gdot.hub.arcgis.com. So there's a couple different ways. Once you're here, there's a lot of information for you to kind of absorb. You can see the concept. Once you get past this map, there's a link to the project layout here. And then here's the FAQs, and they go into filling out the comment form below right here. So, and I'll just pull that back up. So, and this is the signal to be removed. This is not adding a traffic signal in the center. So, yeah, you can see they basically kept where the bike lanes were on Hancock, they moved that to a multi-use path and then connect through over to this location. And then they have a multi-use path that kind of picks up from here. And it brings you to here. So the only sections that are really missing are this part on West Broad. This one is going to be the most expensive because if we had to do it later, it's actually there's a big retaining wall that would be going in here. I believe right at the sidewalk. And so to do the multi-use path after that was in place, we would actually have to remove the retaining wall, rebuild a new one, probably impact more trees. And so, and that would be if you're coming into this heading west, you would want to make sure that you have the ability to get onto that path to go up. I felt like, if you're here, you don't want to go through 5 crosswalks just to stay on the multi-use path. Like you're probably going to just stay on that. So that's why we really wanted to at least have the multi-use path between the crosswalks connecting together. So yeah.
Would bicycles be able to move smoothly through, or would there be a bunch of stops?
Well, they would have to cross the crosswalks each time. So a cyclist coming down Hancock, for instance, would come down the bike lanes, and then they would go into this crosswalk that would merge them onto the multi-use path. From there, they would be there until they get to Plaza, and then they would go across this crosswalk here, and then they're able to continue forward that way. If they're turning more, then yeah, you would have to go through multiple stages. The other option would be if you're a confident cyclist, then you would just stay in the road and you would treat, and you could take the roundabout to get that.
Right.
Maybe one day we could have like a floating roundabout bridge, of for bike bridge over this location, like a big floating donut, like they have in the Netherlands. But for now, this is the best that can really be done.
Yeah, it's still a lot better than what it is now for
Oh, yeah.
cyclists, that's for
Mhm.
sure.
And what will the speed limit be, or do we know that yet?
Ronnie, do we know that? I'm looking. It looks like 25 miles an hour according to
So
this.
from a regulatory perspective, the speed limit is not planned to be dropped. However, the roundabout has a traffic calming impact. It reduces circulating speed, or I should say, going through speed. Right now, on a green light, you probably notice vehicles going between 40 to 50. I don't want to exaggerate, I just want to be realistic. I drive through the intersection. I think the speed limit posted from the intersection going into town is 35, but hardly anybody goes that speed limit. Don't quote me on the speed. I haven't really looked at my data. I should know that better and confirm it. However, what the roundabout does, it forces the through traffic to reduce speed down to 25 max. Now they reduce speed to 25 to go around the roundabout, and once they do that, they can increase their speed, of course, and up to the speed limit and maybe a little bit above it. The geometry allows for that traffic calming aspect for all 5 legs of this roundabout, and also for the circulating traffic. So if you are making a left turn into one of the streets, you're also having to reduce your speed to go around. So that is the kind of speed control mechanism, is the geometry. The regulatory part, it is not changing. So whatever speed limit posted out there is going to continue to be posted. Now that we follow state law that said, we set speed limit based on the 85th percentile of the collected speeds in every, I don't know how many years, 4 years. So in the long run, we could see reduced posted speed. But again, it's not part of this project. The project is a pedestrian improvement, an intersection improvement. It provides a higher level of service in at least multiple legs of this intersection. And mainly, the main focus here is to reduce severe injuries and death. With the traditional traffic light intersections where T-bones can be deadly, versus on a roundabout, people commonly reduce their speeds. The accidents that take place on a roundabout, they're side swipes, fender bender type of accidents. And with that being said, that's much safer, much less proven, reduced the severity, injuries, and death in general. And that's what we are hoping to do here with this proposal.
And there was one thing I wanted to mention, just so like Ronnie said, speed limits won't change, but they do have a recommended 25 mph in the roundabout on all the approaches. So in that sense, in the way that, when you're going into an on-ramp, they're saying slow down to 40 miles an hour as you're getting off the loop. It's that type of speed control. And then I was also just going to mention, this is a study that we did at Millage and Whitehall before and after the roundabout. So prior to the roundabout, we had 34 crashes from 2016 to 2018. And then in that same amount of time, post roundabout, we have had 7 crashes. So that's a 80% reduction in crashes. And I have another one.
That's great, and that's also data we can share with people who are concerned that putting in roundabouts just like increases the problem when it actually does not. They're much
Yeah,
better.
I was actually really shocked at how effective that was. And if we're looking at speed data, so this is actually kind of interesting. So prior to roundabout, northbound speeds, let's see, 36.5 and 41.4, and then post roundabout, they actually went up, so 37.4, 37.2, 41.0, 40.4. Traffic engineering thought that this was probably because we actually flattened that hill to increase line of sight. And so people were they would slow down quite a bit because they just weren't sure when that line of sight wasn't there. So increased speed of 1 mile an hour, but on the southbound approach, that did actually reduce. So, and I'm not
And
sure.
this is
Yeah.
this is approach, not through the intersection, right?
Yes. So this is
Like-
Whitehall Road
Like
north
average
of
speeds.
south. Yeah, this is the 85th. This is the 85th percentile speed. This is the one that dictates what your miles per hour, like your speed limit, can be. So north of South Millage, this is south of South Millage. So these two is northbound, southbound. This is south, and so you can see that actually went up from prior to roundabout, but we believe that that's because of the flattening.
Okay, this is all great information. We're getting a little bit in the weeds on this, which I like to do with this kind of stuff. I do want to make sure that we have time for communications. I know that we're not going to have a lot of committee updates anyway. But Daniel, can you give us a quick update on the Tallahassee Road Bridge and then the pavement maintenance?
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Well, Ronnie, do you want to do that one?
Sure. So the great news is the Georgia Infrastructure Transportation Bank has awarded Athens-Clarke County $750,000. So yay, good job, team. So if you recall, the application was for $2 million to support the construction of the Tallahassee Bridge replacement project. The state announced the awards in their meeting on April 4th, but later on published it. And as soon as we got a word of them publishing it, we shared that information with Blaine. So if you're receiving that, don't feel like you're left behind. We just were waiting to make sure this information is official before we share the good news. So we applied for $2 million, which was the maximum that we could apply for. And as you see here, the maximum awarded was $1 million per entity. Getting 750, that's great. So we are very appreciative to the partner, the Georgia Transportation Infrastructure Bank, and this is not a loan. This is a grant, which is great. We've utilized this program before, and that was on a sidewalk project on Mitchell Bridge Road, completed in 2014, and we're excited to receive more funding from the same source again. It's a good idea to monitor this every year and see if we have any projects going into construction to apply and see if we can compete successfully.
Yeah.
Currently, the project is moving forward. We issued a notice to proceed April 4th. The contractor has been clearing the trees within the clearing area. I did get feedback that, you drive through the area, it doesn't feel the same, and unfortunately it doesn't. Definitely when we're looking at realigning the road and constructing a bridge on the southwest side of the existing bridge, that requires a lot of clearing to do. can imagine, this is a 2-lane roadway. The new bridge foundation will be completely separate from the existing bridge. So yes, it does look different. We look forward to continue working with the contractor on board. Snell, we're coordinating with CSX. We're coordinating with impacted property owners as well. The project completion date is scheduled for October 2023. So we are pushing and doing everything we can to stay on schedule and get this project complete.
And I just wanted to give a shout out to Jake. He helped me with the narrative on this, part of the narrative. It was a really great collaborative effort between, I think that was when he was just transitioning off. So technically you guys helped us get this. So, and this is that section where all these trees have been cleared, and you know, I honestly, it's way more open now where you can actually see people when they're crossing in the summertime. This is like it's like a cave. Like I didn't feel comfortable even going up to get a picture. So I'm okay with it being a little more open for now, and then especially considering that we'll be able to start doing that. And yeah, I guess not technically you guys helped, like you guys did help because he is still on the grants committee, and we met about it several times with Mark and the team. So it was a quick turnaround, and yeah, just wanted to share the good news with y'all.
That's great news. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Ronnie and Daniel. And thanks to Jake Moss, former Athens in Motion Commissioner, still on grants and data.
So add that to the annual report for next year.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's a great idea.
What was the final item on
Pavement
the agenda?
maintenance.
Pavement
Oh.
maintenance.
Yeah, we can give a quick update here. We received 2 bids on the pavement management program. Unfortunately, the pricing we got was quite a bit higher than the available budget. We consulted with our attorney's office, and we concluded that we could not negotiate given the difference in the base bid and the pricing we got. So we're back to the drawing board, looking at different alternatives. We provided Blaine and the elected officials with a revised agenda, looking at a base bid. We have some roads that were approved last year to be paved. We're focusing on those to be paved this year. So that would be our base bid, along with nearby streets that they are rated poor or worst. So we'll focus on those, and that would get us close to how much money we have. And we have bid alternates that we will add into the bid document and request potential bidders and contractors to provide pricing on these alternatives. What we're hoping for is that the bid price, the base bid, would be within our budget, and then we'll pick and choose bid alternates as we see fit, and maybe with some coordination with Athens in Motion, and maybe with elected officials, maybe not. The situation is fluid with pricing right now. The economy is very unpredictable. There's flux of funding projects and shortage of skilled labor, so we have to be careful. We don't want to award the wrong contractor at the wrong time. Now, that there's no such thing called the wrong contractor, is maybe the wrong time, I should say. So we want to be careful how we spend the money. We're hopeful, we remain hopeful that we can get some new pavement on the ground this year and before the end of the paving season, which ends in October. And we'll keep you posted. We're hopeful and again, the upcoming TIS Plus and our public vote will change the game a little bit. There might be different avenues to take or discuss, and we that at that point we'll come back to the table and discuss alternatives. So that's where we are with our paving program. That being said, Baxter Street was put on hold, and meaning we're not including it in the base bid. We made a site visit and determined that the recent repairs that were made on Baxter Street should serve for at least another year without any worries in developing potholes. We've spent quite a bit of efforts to stabilize the site. So we'll keep it monitored, and if we need to go back and do more repairs, we'll do. We know that we don't have a sub base in the area, so it is common that a street like that would develop potholes sooner than later. I hate to say it. But again, I just want to be clear and say that we're not considering to have Baxter Street full depth reclamation from Millage to Rock Springs as part of the calendar 22 paving program. Again, we put this in front of our elected officials, and they have the power of making different commission defined alternatives, and so therefore that would be left to them. The agenda in front of them right now is for a vote to reject bids and approve the proposed base bid with alternatives to move forward into a bid phase or an advertisement, with hopes that we can have a contractor secured by, end of July, early August.
Yeah, thank you, Ronnie. I know that's rough to work with. It's getting increasingly difficult for us to pay for pavement maintenance with local dollars. And yeah, that's a whole discussion that we can get into, but I'll save it for another time because I know we have just 30 minutes left. And so I'm going to go ahead and make some changes to the agenda. I want to check in with folks with our last 30 minutes. Are there any committees, either the corridor committees or Athens in Motion Commission committees that do have an update that you're going to want to share? Okay, Teresa will. Okay, so Teresa, you need like a minute or two. Okay, so we'll make sure we save time for that. Anyone else? Blaine, you got anything from UGA? Okay, so we'll make sure that we save time at the end, Teresa, to make sure that you get to talk. And then I'm gonna move the general discussion. We'll save that for another meeting. Once our next meeting will be through with T-Splost. And any T-Splost 2023 stuff, let's just talk about offline. I don't think we're going to make any decisions that require a vote. So with that, unless anyone objects, let's go ahead and talk about the communication survey, the moment we've all been waiting for. What did we say?
Okay. So first I want to apologize for being late. Thought I'd be back in plenty of time, but 11 o'clock game turned into a 12:30 game because of rain. But so I'm going to share my screen here and show you results. Everybody see my screen?
Yes. Oh, you have a presentation. Yes.
Yeah. So I have.
Yes.
So looking at first, thanks for those that replied to the survey. So we'll whip through the logos here quick. Logo 1, again, when you're looking at the colors, blue strongly like, red like, yellow neutral, well, goldish color, neutral, green dislike, and purple is strongly dislike. So one did okay. A few slides later, I made this numerical, so it's a little easier to see how they did together. So overall, logo 1 did okay. Logo 2 did not do so good. Quite a bit on the dislike, a lot neutral, and 1 like. Logo 3, not too well. Actually, no. This one was hated. Pretty much overall, yeah, dislike and strongly dislike is 3/4 of the responses. So that one did not do well. Number 4, kind of an overall neutral number between the a large amount on neutral dislike, bit of strongly dislike, and like that one. This one had the widest variety of opinions.
The comment looks like a somewhat better logo for a sailing club.
Yeah, and it does. I mean, it really does look like a good logo for a sailing club. I would agree. Number 5. Again, here we had equal on the like and dislike and 25% neutral. So kind of a neutral opinion on this one. Again, too, someone made the comment, this is heading in the right direction. A lot of people challenged with what the squiggle is, but 2 right tracks. Yep. Go ahead, Daniel.
Well, the squiggle on the left. I think so. Is that talking about the A?
Well, I'm assuming this. What is the M here?
Yeah.
Well,
So the squiggle on the left is the A with the strike through it, and then
yes.
the I is partially up through there. So
Yeah, okay, I was the squiggle comment there, but
Okay.
okay.
it didn't do much for me, even with that
Yeah,
explanation.
Yeah.
And then number 6 is our old logo, a little reimagined. That actually had the best overall score, and the only one without any dislikes or strong dislikes. Maybe some comments around, most of the comments here are around it being busy or complicated. So may need to be, whatever we decide, this logo would need some work. So looking at the overall score, the number 6 had the highest. So I ranked it with strongly like as a 5, like 4, 3 neutral, 2 dislike, and 1 strongly dislike. So, and that was ranking. So it's 6, 1, 5, 4, and 2 and 3. 2 and 3 did the worst of, or the least liked, I should say, of all the logos proposed. Any discussion there? Further discussion around logos?
I'm glad I'm not a graphics designer.
Yeah, what I would like to say first of all is, Randy, this is really great work, and thank you so much for the effort and the analysis that you put into this.
No, thanks.
I wish that there was a clear winner, one that we all said, yeah, that's just great. Let's get
Well,
behind it.
one comment about number 6 is that, and I made that in my comments, was you could simplify it by having 2 versions, one with the figures and one without, maybe a larger version for some treatments where you have the figures, but the sort of basic minimalist version wouldn't have the figures. Of course, if you lose the figures, then of course you lose the whole Athens and walking, biking people. So
yeah. Well, if we have the general message in larger form that people are used to seeing, the different modes of transportation and walking and cycling, maybe you can drop that for smaller patches and bumper stickers, whatever the case may be.
Well, I want to just say that I had a conversation with Daniel yesterday, and he reached out to somebody who does logo design. And I think that you've got some things you'd like to share on that topic.
Yeah, I was gonna let everyone talk for a bit, but I can jump right into it. I reached out to get some feedback on these options and just to kind of like see what opinions are. And I think the thing that is really resonating here is that there's not one that we all love. And this is marketing, this is branding, this is our logo, it's our identity. I think it's something that we really need to love a lot. And I don't want to derail. I think the initial kind of scope of this whole project is the communication strategy is very important. Like ultimately, you all felt that the communication strategy should take a priority over marketing branding. And I'm worried that with the amount, we'll have to keep going back and forth with the designer on logos to really get this figured out so that we all love it. And I don't want to burn a lot of our hours on that when we really could maybe just take a step back from the logo, remove it from the scope, and then find some other avenues. And I do really appreciate like the work that the consultant has done on this. And but I think it's just there's a lot. I mean, designing by committee is difficult, number one, but I think that there is some value in even working with like a local graphic artist who could potentially kind of help us with some logos. So yeah, I spoke with someone, got some feedback. She was really excited about the project and that we were doing, and she was like, "Oh, that's awesome! Like, I love this kind of stuff, and I'd love to give you some feedback." And so she took a look at it, and then just because she, loves to nerd out on graphic stuff, she kind of drafted up some versions of it. Um, but I didn't really want to. I don't want to necessarily do the like competing thing between the two. I really like basically what I felt like we should discuss is do we want would everyone be okay with removing the logo from the scope and doing that through the committee, like the communications committee, maybe with a local designer, or we'll just find some other way to do it. Or, even if it's going with option 6, like the version that we showed in that survey was one that I put together just with some Photoshop work. So if that's the highest scoring one, I think what we're seeing here is that there's not a lot of like happiness around 1 through 5, and then we can focus on get the rest of the branding, marketing materials done, and then move into that communication strategy so we can stay on schedule with the project.
Daniel, I think that makes a lot of sense. Do we need to like have a vote or anything, like have a motion to change the scope on the contract? How would we go about doing this?
I think it's helpful to get the vote just to ensure that everyone has a chance to really say their concerns or support for those things. So, because I want to make sure everyone here is heard, and that ultimately, like what I'm worried about is this was like our round. And I know that we didn't, this is like technically round 1 in that y'all are giving feedback for the first time, but there were some other ones that didn't even make it to this one. So I'm kind of considering it like round 3 of getting logos from them. And they've done some refining, and I'm just kind of worried that if we do round and round and round until we get an agreed upon logo. And I think honestly, it would also help to like it would help Tool a lot because like they're not a graphic design firm. They're a, you know, they do planning and engineering and plan development, and they do a fantastic job of plan development. And so I really want to spend our money with them where it counts.
Right.
So.
Let me ask a question. Randy, do you have more to show us?
Wait a minute. Get back to, those were some other logos that people have uploaded, but we don't need that for this discussion. Overall, the color palette did well. There was very a few dislikes and likes, or strong dislikes, but for the most part, everybody seemed to be happy with the color palette. And same with the fonts and the font hierarchy. Yard design, same thing. There wasn't a single negative comment or a single negative vote. There were several comments, and this information's all on the Google Drive. So if anyone wants to look at that further, they're more than welcome to. And again, with the template review, the must-have, or where we were asking, do we need these? The logo, flyer, general text document, social media, the yard sign, the press release, and the boilerplate. I think there was one vote for not needed on a general text document, but everything else was a must-have or nice to have. So we all seem to be in an agreement there. And that was it. That's it for the presentation.
I think so what we need to do is package up our feedback for the consultant. So that comes down to each of those areas that we covered. There's the logo, there's the color combinations, there's the font hierarchy, there's the layout. So I guess we could do a motion for a group of feedback. I did some more like just looking at information, like tips for branding. Like obviously I'm not a graphic designer. I don't even claim to be close to that. I can use Illustrator. That doesn't make me anything. But what the, in that, some of the things like the Arial font is kind of simple. It's pretty basic. I think there's other ones that we could do that would also be sans serif and would just stand out a little bit better. Gill Sans is one that I used in leisure services that I really like the look of. It's professional, and I mean, font choice gets really into very specific niche of people. And so, my thoughts were kind of, we could maybe play around with the fonts, but they did a really good job of using those fonts to make those layouts look great. One of the other things that I wanted to mention too was the color combinations. I've gone back and forth on it. I like the idea of having a different set of standards between like staff and the commission, but in reality, like in practice, I was trying to figure out like when would one be one versus the other? Like we work together on almost everything. And I just feel like that blue and the green of Athens in Motion, those really, it feels weird to pull that from y'all and put it over and make that part of my package of colors. So I would be fine with just doing all grays if I needed to. We're government, we're boring, or using, some, because we also have the county blue that we need to work with. And so I could work with the public information office on, kind of having that more streamlined color set. Would you guys be on board with kind of adding the green and blue back into those other colors as well, kind of in addition to?
Sure.
Okay.
I like that color combination.
So for any of the stuff that was like hate it, despise it, like those are the comments that I think would be most helpful for the designer. So does anybody want to, I mean, like, this isn't like a, session where we can just sit here and complain or anything. It's critique, right? So it always feels a little weird to do it, especially when the person's not in the room. But whatever we can give her would be, really helpful to Sarah. So is there anything from anyone that that you could see as like room for improvement, aside from the logo? Because are we all agreeing that we'll deal with the logo as a separate item?
Yeah, okay. here's what I think that we should do. I think that we should formalize this idea of removing the logo from the scope with our why am I calling them contractor with them and having the communications committee look at the survey results and based on our conversation today, give feedback to a tool and go from there with our visuals and our communications plan. And then if you all want to look at a local person and allocate funds for a local designer to come up with a logo, I'm fine with y'all looking into that and coming back to the committee, the whole commission. Does that sound like a plan? Is that enough to work with, Daniel?
Yeah. So move it back to committee.
Yeah. So can we get someone to make a motion to, because it sounds like that's what would be best, to make a motion to remove the logo from the scope for at least the tool part of this.
I'll make a motion that we remove the logo from the scope of the tool contract and have the communications committee with anyone else who would like to be part of that effort discuss on a separate date and come back to the Athens in Motion Commission.
And a second?
If I could do one revision to that, just
Okay.
so coming back to the commission as a whole, I think probably the next thing that we need to bring them to the main commission is the communication strategy plan itself. You know, it was super helpful to get everyone's feedback on the marketing and branding. I think we need to kind of move it to committee, make those decisions, get the thing. We'll get the final, we'll get the final say if everyone's okay with that. And there'll still be the at the very end of the project where we can kind of give the all clear for here's everything we've done.
I accept those revisions, Daniel.
Cool. I know it's not really a packageable revision.
All right, so we have a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, and Randy, do you feel like you have enough information to work with? I mean, your survey results are great, the way it's presented.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, taking out the logo, etc. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Communications Committee, for all that. We have a couple minutes left. Teresa, you have the floor.
Yeah, just real quick. The Atlanta Highway User Group has done 2 walking surveys of Mitchell Bridge and Timothy Road. And I was present for the Mitchell Bridge portion, but out of town for the Timothy Road portion. But I think that the team they had there just did an excellent job, and they did provide us feedback at our last meeting. So I think we're going to get a really good set of recommendations from them.
Yeah, and the consultant is working on a few options. Basically, there's a couple spots on Timothy where we're looking at one side or the other. For the majority of Timothy, though, the south side was more suitable. So that multi-use path design would go from Atlanta Highway on the south side all the way to kind of, do you remember the name of the road, Teresa? I don't have a map in front of me.
No, I don't, but
Oh, here we go. So from there, the Atlanta Highway to, I think it's Skyline.
maybe that's right, because there's already a crossing at Skyline.
It's I think it's the crossing at Skyline, and that location we're going to have a concept on the north side and one on the south side. And then as we move further down the corridor, we will have a concept for that last leg of Timothy Road on the north side versus the south side. So this is the section from 441 down to Macon Highway. There were some yards that would be heavily impacted along there that we were really worried about. So initially we were kind of thinking keep it on the side with the houses and the church so that people, you know, it'd be like on that side. But for the amount of pavement we would have to put in, we were looking at the south side as an option, but we wanted to kind of, and those options will go to public input so we can get some clarification there. And then I'm also working on developing the Lexington Road public input session right now. We walked that corridor as well. And that's just going to be sidewalks. There's not really options. So I think it's going to be more like, here's the information, here's the things, like prioritize maybe. I'm not sure exactly what that will look like, but we just started the planning process. So, yeah.
Thank y'all for putting yourselves out there in harm's way, walking along the sides of our roads and getting a true feel for what it's like on the ground. It's one thing to look at it in Google Maps. It's another thing to be on the road and not have any room and have cars flying by you at 55, 60 miles an hour. So thank you for that.
And I mean, it makes all the difference too, because I mean, from a planning perspective, looking at it as a map, I was like, oh, it makes sense to do it on the north side. But once you're out there, it's just it's different. So
Yeah, you get a sense of where the challenges are that the flat two-dimensional drawing doesn't give you. So.
And I forgot to mention, I do want to start looking more into bike counters and getting bike counts and incorporating that as part of our metrics from a staff standpoint. We can bring that up on the next meeting or maybe in the policy or projects committee or something. But that is something that I got some information from GDOT about some different opportunities. And so it would be really helpful. I'm getting more and more questions about how many people are biking there right now. So that would be really helpful to have counts. So, and that's also something I'll just work on from a staff standpoint, but I would love to get feedback from the committees. So,
Daniel, would you be so kind as to do one of your doodle polls for the communications committee meeting and include everybody in it?
Yes, I can.
That'd be great. Thank you, sir.
All right, so we have some items to move for discussion for next month. Our next meeting is on Election Day. That's May 24th. Early voting starts next week, and we will be sharing items to educate and inform voters about the upcoming referendum on our Facebook page. So look out for that. But I do want to encourage you all as commissioners to talk to people about the T-Splost. You know, we can share stuff on Facebook all day long as a group, but it's never underestimate the power that you have and the influence that you have as a person among your friends, family, and in your community. So bring out your transportation elevator speech, and please encourage people to go vote. To learn about the transportation special purpose local option sales tax. It is the best way that we have to fund these kind of infrastructure improvements for a small consolidated city county like Athens-Clarke County. These local dollars will go a long way, and transportation costs are going up. But we have the federal infrastructure bill, and we can leverage our local dollars, and they'll go further than ever. So please talk to people about it.
All right. one last thing, quick little plug. So I've been going on some monthly rides with Scott and some other stakeholders. Our last one, last month we did a staff ride on the Greenway between, we had well, Ronnie was there, Stephen. We also had staff from Leisure Services. It was really productive, really helpful. And I think it's something that I want to formalize up a bit. So we went ahead and just set a standing monthly ride, same time and day every month. So this Friday at I think 12:30 until 2:30. Is that right, Scott?
That sounds right. It depends on what we want to do, but people can come and go as if they need to leave early.
Yeah. So yeah, all of you guys are invited. I'd love we haven't really had a chance to do in-person stuff. It's meet up at Bike Athens, and between now and then me and him will have a discussion, we'll have a chat and see where we want to ride and what we want to talk about, and just send me an email if you're interested. That way I can kind of get a little bit of a head count, and if you have any specific places that you want to check out. I mean, we've ridden on Barber, we've done Hancock, the new bike lanes there, up College Avenue. We did the Greenway from the Nature Center all the way down to Streets and Drainage on the Firefly. So we got to see all of the new construction. We've ridden out Oglethorpe where the intersection is, and kind of rode out to that spot and turn around in the firehouse there. So anything's on the table, and the goal is to kind of get some eyes on the road, talk about some of the things we're seeing, talk about some of the things that you've experienced as a cyclist. Like, hey, I want to point this out during this time of day. This is the kind of thing you might see here. Just because it's really helpful for me to get out and see this stuff. And so we're going to make it a little more organized in the future, but this one's just kind of like we're going to figure it out. And moving on, we'll probably do kind of a staff ride quarterly, so include some other staff besides me at the quarterly rides, like Stephen and Tim Griffith, traffic engineering. And then aside from that, we do want to also have some coordination with other departments. And I would love to even get it to the point to where we, maybe once a year or once a quarter, we can get some elected officials out there with us and do like a annual mayor's ride. That's something that we can really start working towards, with the caveat that you got to stay on the bike. You can't distract them and talk about all the other things that everyone wants to talk to them about. So I think it's really helpful to get out and see it, and I'd love to have you guys be more of a part of that as well. So
Yeah.
this can be our Athens in Motion Commission ride.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for organizing those, and I will try and make it to some. A suggestion I have for a route is following the Greenway, particularly where it crosses at Mama's Boy.
And I suggest maybe thinking about a time that ends at happy hour rather than middle of the day. It might make it easier for folks to join as well. I mean, that's a bad time of day, but for a lot of people,
Okay.
I think it could work. But
Well, Scott, you have another ride that day, right?
Yeah, it's the same day, different time as our monthly joyride. So basically the idea was I can just close the shop all day and be on these two different rides.
Got it.
And
No, that's
if we wanted to move this to the joyride and have that be a little more on a multi-purpose sort of ride, we could look at that.
thanks for doing this.
Can I borrow a bike?
Yes.
Thank you.
Nice.
And I even have some reflective vests that we can wear if we're on the road.
I'm sure someone can dig up some lights for that bike for Teresa too.
Okay, I can't do this week's, but sometime in May, my Friday afternoons are gonna free up. So yeah, I'll definitely do some of these.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have more information at the next commission meeting once I kind of get it organized. It's very loose right now. So anyways.
All right, committee, thank you for a great meeting. And yeah, I will see you all around, and hopefully, gosh, the next time we meet, I'm going to be so nervous about the ballot results coming in for T-SPLOST, but hopefully we'll have some good news. Yes, so everyone stay safe, enjoy the weather. Have a good night.
All right. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.